Hey, Colorado Springs, Chris Lopez here, and today's episode is going to focus on Jenny Bayless's 2020 goals update. And this is a little bit of an ad-lib episode. We had originally planned, Jenny, to come back and revisit a property, one of your rental properties we talked about. We talked about doing an ROE, return equity analysis, a couple months back. We'll link the episode in the show notes. But we had a hard time putting this in a spreadsheet and talking about it. Got a little too nuanced. And we realized that taking a step back and just putting in context of the bigger portfolio, bigger goals was the way to go. So with that in mind, we're talking about your property, plus some goals updates, and have some fun.
Yeah, sounds good.
So should we start with the property, the goals? Where do you want to go?
We'll talk about the property just to kind of, discuss that, and then we'll roll into the goals because, it's part of the whole portfolio. So that seems like a good transition right there.
Yes. And believe it or not, I still cannot believe that this is the end of September. And we're going to be calling for the 2022 goals updates for the next edition of the book here in a couple months, which is a little scary to me in terms of timelines and that the year is almost over. But starting with that, where do you want to start with the property? Backtrack it. Give us a quick recap on the property, the details, and what you're planning, and we'll talk reality.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to shoot out a lot of numbers, so try to stick with me here.
Bring it on.
It's really not that important in the grand scheme of things, like you said. Like we'll talk about some of the bigger picture stuff for it. But I had purchased this property 4 years ago for $110,000. Put about $5,000 into it. As of 3 days ago, the loan balance was about $116,000, and this is
a property you bought originally, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then at the time, I had thought that the property, if I were to fix it up, would be worth about $280,000. I was thinking probably about $230,000 in its current state. Definitely needed some TLC, which once I got eyes on it, it really needed some TLC after that. So it's probably a good thing that I fixed it up. Yearly property tax, $600 a year, no HOA, $900 a year for insurance, which it's gone up a little bit over the last month because it was also my renewal month this month, and 4.375% interest rate on the loan, $600 payment, and I was getting $1,100 a month in rent.
So $500 spread between just gross rent and mortgage payment.
Yep.
So great spread.
Yeah, pretty good. So during that ROE, we had talked about we're just probably going to keep it the same. But if the tenant were to move out, where would I fall on that spectrum? Would I do the max cash out refinance? Would I do a safe cash out refinance? Would I sell in 1031? Lo and behold, like a month later, find out that he's moving. So, hey, I had a roadmap. I didn't actually have to think. It was perfect timing in that sense that I didn't actually have to put too much thought of, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because it was kind of unexpected. So we decided.
Well, I want to pause there for a second because we looked at the spreadsheet before we got on the podcast today, and the tenant moving out, you have the option of refinance, but improve and refinance or improve and sell.
Mm-hmm.
And even in its current, with how much properties have increased in Colorado Springs and all that, it was still around like a low 5 cap,
mm-hmm.
maybe just say 5 cap for easy numbers.
Yeah.
Which is still, in the current market conditions for a single family home, a relatively good deal
mm-hmm.
in the current market space. So it wasn't like a clear indicator to sell and trade up to reposition the equity because you still were in in the good side of the cap rates.
Yeah.
And roughly we use like 4% as a rule of thumb, and you're at I think 5.1, 5.2 we were looking at.
Yeah.
So you were still in a very good spot, which made sense to let's keep the property in the portfolio right now because it still makes sense as a rental and ride from there.
Well, trust me, during the rehab process, I had threatened to sell it multiple times.
Threatened to who? Yourself?
To my husband, myself. I was like, we're done with this property. I'm tired of it. Like, let's sell it. Let's get rid of it. He talked some sense into me. Like, no, it's still a really good hold. Like, let's just ride it out and, it'll be good. So I've come to the other side of it now.
What was so bad about the renovations, though?
The property was just in worse condition than we had remembered. So it just needed full overhaul outside.
Was that tenant issues or just your guys' memory?
I'm not sure. It doesn't matter at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we had to do the bathroom, the kitchen, floors, paint, a lot of repairs to some underlying plumbing stuff that we came to find out. The yard needed some overhaul going on, so we got it all straightened up. It was probably about a month and a half it took on a 1,000 square foot home. So
Did you was it DIY? Did you hire it out?
Oh no, we hired it out. The only thing I did, I had to rip up the carpet myself because we were on a tight timeline and I was going to bump everything out. So I was over there till, like 8 at night on my knees, like, ripping up carpet and everything, which did not smell great. So maybe that was
Did it smell like asbestos?
No, it smelled like other things.
All right, good.
Yeah, it smelled like wet dog and all sorts of stuff like that. So, so that passed. We got through that. It looks beautiful now, if I do say so. I didn't do the improvements to it, so our contractor did it, and it looks great.
But you did improvements with rental upgrades in mind, right?
Yes.
Not sales. This is an important thing to talk about because I have done that mistake in my first property. That I over improved it when I rehabbed it. And for rentals, that's a very common thing. You over improve it the first, 1 or 2 times when you have properties.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. So like some of the things that we kept into consideration is that for the shower, we did, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's basically like a veneer, like a bath fitters type veneer for the shower and then the tub, as opposed to tiling it.
Okay.
Because that's what the neighborhood commands. It looks really, really fresh. It's like all white and everything, so it looks great. Kitchen, I had done backsplash on a different rehab that we talked about.
That's what we posted YouTube, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This neighborhood doesn't need backsplash. I have brand new cabinets, nice laminate countertops, stainless steel appliances, added in a dishwasher, and that is top of the line for this area. So I definitely was very mindful of that. And then flooring, I did laminate flooring, just so that we don't have any carpet issues in the future. I think.
So zero carpet?
Zero carpet. The whole thing is laminate. Bathrooms, kitchen, bedrooms, all that good stuff. And then for the yard, we ended up just mulching the front and then mowing the back. So we didn't have the rocks that we had done in that previous house that was rather expensive. This was just grading it down and putting mulch. So just keeping in mind, the balance, because it's a different neighborhood than that other house that we had walked through.
Now let's talk about that for a second, because this is a great topic to talk about. Is you looked at the property in context of what the neighborhood is, where it's at, from both a rental perspective, a sales perspective, and you have to put in the context of, hey, what is this current, micro market, this neighborhood? What is it demanding? Where is it at? And you're not going to change it. You can way over improve it, and no one really cares, or you can just go with the trend and do what the market wants.
Yeah.
And you do what the market wants, which is what you should be doing as an investor for, efficient use of your capital.
Yeah. So it was very easy for me to figure out what it was that we were going to do on this particular home, just because I feel like I know the neighborhood very, very well, whereas that other neighborhood is changing so quickly. I had to kind of do a little bit of guessing. I think I guessed right for the most part on that other rehab that we walked through, but this one I was feeling very confident with the upgrades that we picked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did it all turn out?
Yeah. So ended up about $32,000 all in for everything.
What was your budget?
I didn't have one.
What was your mental expectation?
I was hoping
Miss
for
ex-CPA.
I was thinking 20, and that just was not even close.
I'm glad you and I budget the same way.
Yeah.
Incorrectly.
Yeah. Well, I always budget wrong. Like just when I think that I've learned like how much things cost, like, years have passed and prices have gone up, and then I'm wrong. So I've learned to double the time and double the budget, and I'm usually within the right ballpark then. I think if I had doubled it, I would have been closer between that and the closing costs, it would have been right on. So $8,000 in closing costs for a cash out refinance on this.
Now, did you pay that out of pocket, or that was just wrapped in the loan, right?
It was taken out of my proceeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So no direct out of pocket.
Correct. Yeah. I still mentally think of it as an upfront expense as part of the rehab. That's just how I kind of categorize things personally. So ended up appraising for $295, which a few months ago I was thinking $280 fixed up. So like I said, like the contractors did an amazing job. It looks beautiful home, which was kind of evidenced by the demand that we got when we went to list it for rent. So yeah, $295. I did a 70% LTV. I was working with Bill with Cornerstone on this one, and
Bill the lender.
He helps me kind of hone in on, what LTV gives you, or what LTV and then what rate buy down is the best,
You find the sweet spot.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, just tell me what I should do. So he said, this one's the best option. It ended up.
So let me I want to take a step back and put in this context the bigger stuff in it. And I know it's either previous podcast or previous conversations you and I've had is, I think you generally try to keep around a 65% total portfolio loan to value ratio, right? Mm-hmm. Did that come into play with finding a sweet spot on here, or is that you don't care at this point?
No.
Just depends on the numbers, what Bill says, hey, here's what you can or can't get.
It did not matter because we had a rather significant movement on loan paydowns, which we'll talk about with the goals. So I know that I'm running on the low end, so I have some wiggle room on my overall LTV balance.
So this is you just kind of doing mental math.
Yeah. So yearly insurance that went up about $130, 3.625. Very happy with that rate. And my new monthly
And
mortgage,
this was a cash out or terms only?
It was a cash out.
So 3.625 for a cash out?
Yeah.
On investment property?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm
smile for that one.
Yeah, and I'm also very excited because this is, my first property that I got a loan on by myself after I quit my W-2. So that's kind of like,
oh, congratulations.
Yeah, that's kind of like a big deal for self-employed people.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. So I was really excited about that.
If you're self-employed, you'll appreciate that. If you're not, it'll go over your head.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is because that is like the bane to the self-employed existence.
Yeah.
Being respected by a lender.
Yeah. So I can carry on again, without the crutch of my husband's W-2 job carrying me along on that. So yeah, estimated monthly mortgage payment, principal and interest, $940. And then drum roll for how much we got in rent, $1,625.
What were you expecting?
$1,450.
Oh, wow. So that's a big bump.
Yeah, it was a big bump. I was a little hesitant, but the market was showing that 16-ish was, appropriate for a 3-bedroom, 1-car garage. So went for it. What's the worst that can happen? We'll just lower it in a week or whatever.
Take a week.
Oh my gosh.
Drop it by $50.
I had to turn off the ad. I just had too many emails for it. So yeah, it worked out really well. So if we're looking at the, in the previous version, 1,100 with 600 in P&I, that's plus 500. Now we're at 1,625 with 941. So
say those last two numbers again.
So 1,625 and 941.
Okay.
So a little bigger spread.
So just from a pure high level gross spread.
Yeah.
That's what $100 and change better, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was really happy. So when all was said and done, after paying for loan costs, I walked away with $82,000. So, yeah, it was worth me, cursing out the house a couple of weeks prior. So
$82,000 in value or $82,000 in
cash
out refi?
Cash in my bank account. Yeah, from the cash out refi. So definitely paid myself back for having done all those improvements. You know, but that was $32,000. So that's still a really good return if you think about it that way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, I still made, you know, I walked away with net 50K, and then a higher spread of about 100. So 150K or 150 a month. Yeah.
And this is something, you know, as you know, investors go out there and look at properties, keep in mind, like, we often get so focused on what is today's returns. I buy this property in year one, I expect X cash flow, X this, X that. And that's a very important metric. But I mean, I don't recommend it. I don't think you do either. Like, don't just get tunnel vision on that, because, you know, as year 2, year 3, year 5, year 6 comes on, what happens? Hey, the market grows, the market expands, rents increases, prices increases. Now, it'll be like what we had the last couple of years? Probably not.
No.
I mean, I'm not counting on that, but I still expect it to be like, you know, growth versus negative. And this is the important thing to look at when it comes to, like, hey, where do you want to place your capital? What do you do with the market? Like, do you expect the market to tank?
I don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
And so you got to take that into context. Say, hey, what's the market going to do? How can I get a good return today, but also plan in year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and grow from there? And this is a perfect example of what you did, where, you know, you've, well, I guess, double bird the house.
Yeah.
Or no, not bird, but you call it burn.
I did a burn.
The slow burn,
and then
right?
a slow burn.
So okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
okay, say that again. And explain it a little bit.
So in 2017, I did a traditional burr. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, you know, call it a day. 4 years later, that's what we call the slow burn, meaning just kind of letting the market do its thing for a little bit. There was some forced equity in this case, just in the fact that I did renovations to it. So it was a little bit of a combo, and cash out, refinanced it, rented it, and now I have a, you know, nice little nest egg that we could reinvest.
So, you know, one thing for listeners out there, hey, if you had a property for a couple of years or a few years, your tenant's turning, this might be a great time with how the market has appreciated in both prices and rents. Plus, we're still in a very, very low interest rate environment. Fix it up, do a cash out refi, take out the cash. You got $80,000 at 3.625% interest rate. Amazing deal.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And this is what's so exciting about real estate. Like, you know, in your 401k or your, you know, your index funds or your brokerage account, great, it increases, but you don't get the opportunity to go out there and be able to add value, refinance, pull out cash. You just can't do that in, you know, non-real estate investments. So if you have properties out there, consider looking at it, depending on where your tenant's at, your property's at. But also, as you buy properties, I know numbers are getting, you know, slimmer. You know, they're getting the margin's getting slimmer every year now, but they're going to keep going that way. Is my prediction.
Yeah.
So ride that trend and realize, hey, in 3, 4, 5 years, there might be some value add opportunities like you're doing here. Like, this is real estate, and you have to have that long-term perspective.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to your goals. I want to loop back to this, Jenny, because your chapter in our annual, you know, our annual 2021 guide to Colorado real estate investing. It was very concise. You did some great points on there. And we like to talk about it so that, you know, us as investors and other investors in this book can hold themselves accountable, but also learn about it. So I'm going to go through your goals on here. And specifically, was this property in your goals list this year?
No.
So what happened there? What went wrong?
I mean, life happens. Things change, and you just have to pivot, you know? Like, I think that's really the crux of it, is that just really taking what you know, I could have been just cranky about having to, which I was a little bit, you know, having to rehab a property I wasn't anticipating, you know, spending time and effort doing. But, you know, as of 2 days ago, I'm very happy with having put in that work to do that. So it's just, you know, you're going to get curveballs. That's just life. That's just being a property owner, and just roll with it.
So I'm gonna read you some questions here. I want your snap decision feedback. Okay. So I'm on page 93 of this year's book. Under your rules for investment, I do not want to own an empire.
Yep. Still accurate.
Okay. Number 2, make sure I don't overextend myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about rehabs, pulling out cash. How'd you balance all that?
Yeah. So, we'll, spoiler alert, we did pay off 2 rental properties this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels really good. And people listening are probably like, why did you cash out refinance if you just paid off 2 properties? Like, you could have just used the cash and, but that's just kind of, one, we didn't know that was going to happen. And then 2, it was just kind of looking again at the overall portfolio. What is my equity position? What is, what are the properties kicking off? What's the interest rate environment? This property had, a quote unquote high interest rate in the 4s, which is kind of silly to talk about. But, just looking at it saying, okay, well, there's really not a huge impact to me to pulling out cash. Yes, I could leverage like my entire portfolio to the hilt. But, we just chose to kind of cherry pick how we were going to do that. So overextending myself debt wise, we're definitely moving in the right direction there. Time wise, that one's probably, I'm probably a little guilty of, spending too much time on the renos personally.
Like you as a project manager, are you doing the work? What do you mean exactly?
I mean, project managing and, doing some work, like I said, ripping up disgusting carpet and, cleaning some things here and there that I just didn't have the opportunity to outsource, just given that constraint.
And it was too much for a ripple effect for you just to say, you know what, take care of it in a week?
Yep. Because I was like, what's worse? Me just sucking it up for this evening or having to call like a ton of people and try to get everyone's schedule adjusted. So I was like, yep, I'll just take the hit.
No, I mean, it makes sense. And that is just real life. Like you have your plan and then reality comes into play and you're like, all right, well, yes, I'll deal with this.
Yeah.
All right. So number 3, ensure adequate cash reserves for all aspects of life.
Check.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
So we're on page 94 right now. Personal budgeting goals. I don't know how much you have to talk about here, but any updates on that?
No, we're just continuing to every month keep track of our expenses.
So what's that look like? Do you and your husband meet? Is it, hey, 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, the third Sunday of every month, you meet to do your budget?
We don't. Not anymore. Like we used to have more involved conversations about like, maybe we can cut expenses here. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do that. It just doesn't have as big of an impact to us now that our conversations have evolved more towards, like this one, for instance, what should we do with this renovation? Should we cash out refinance it? Should we sell it? Should we, do nothing? That sort of thing. So like our conversations have been more higher level, higher impact.
And that's just the evolution. Like, let's say a step back and, hey, you're when you're just starting out in your 20s, no kids, building on everything, like it's a very different stage in your life. Mm-hmm. Hey, fast forward a decade, you're starting a family, you got more, more assets under management for yourself. Like it's just a different story. And that's how things change, where it's like, hey, we're not worried about saving $20 a month. Let's focus on, more wealth creation over here. Mm-hmm. And that's the evolution of it, that it took me a long time to understand and appreciate. And that's just part of the evolution of being a successful investor.
Yeah.
So your real estate investing goals, we're moving on to page 95 right now.
What did I write? Let's see. Yeah. So I think I mentioned we're going to close on number 9. We did check January. So we did that.
That was a townhome, right?
Yeah. And then just I wanted to pay off one home. So and
you paid off 2.
I paid off 2.
So you're being an overachiever.
I mean, probably, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, since I did do the cash out on the one. But I'm very pleased with that. I think it, even though mathematically it would have made more sense to either rate and term or cash out those 2 properties that we paid off, because they did probably double in value since we've owned both of them. There's just a personal thing back to, I don't want to own an empire. I just want to own, a handful of really well-refined performing properties.
Mm-hmm. And so have you made changes in your portfolio this year? You talk about well-performing properties.
Mm-hmm.
Made any changes to like, hey, it's and when we take it in context, this year, as we all know, has been an extreme seller's market.
Yeah.
Great time to sell a property.
Yeah.
So if that's, it's also a great time to optimize your portfolio. Hey, I've got this, this just pain in the butt property.
Yeah.
I've got this dog of the property. Did you make any changes in your portfolio this year?
Yeah. So we bought a dog property that had so many issues in it, fixed all
like flooding,
right?
Yeah.
Sewer. I'm sure there was more things to it that I've since blocked out. It was just...
Yeah, we won't go down the PTSD route. It's not therapy, so
it was awful. Yeah, so we fixed it up because we want to do right by whomever would like to own this thing next, right? So we fixed everything. We had to fix the sewer twice. Spent a small car's worth of money on doing that, and we managed to walk away with a teeny tiny profit from it because it took that many months to work through the issues. We decided to sell it because, like you said, it felt heavy. Like, I
talk about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're obviously coming from a CPA analytical background.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about heavy, which does not quantify in the spreadsheet.
Yeah. So, my husband, Mike, he's very analytical as well. And he would just tell me, he's like, this property stresses me out. He's like, I know we probably fixed everything on it, but just the thought of having done so many repairs within, a month of owning it, I don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, it is a very stressful property. Like, I feel like I don't want to get like, kind of down a weird path, but I feel happy when I think about all the other properties, whereas that one is kind of like a dark cloud. Just thinking about all the stuff that we did, and he's like, let's sell it, and I'm like, we're not going to make any money selling it. We're going to lose so much if we just bought it. Like, purpose of real estate is you got to hold on to it for many years. And he's like, no, I don't care. Like, let's just sell it. And believe it or not, we were able to sell it at a teeny tiny profit from that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And it's also just, a great thing to keep in mind that, no one's plans go according to, plan as we want. Like, reality is always meet the plan there. And you accept it. You're like, you know what? Like, for all the stress, like, hey, on a spreadsheet, we should probably just suck it up and go with it. But for all the mental stress, waking up at 3 a.m. and worrying about, like, it's just not worth it. Like, that's the balance on there.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a great thing to be able to be aware of and handle, because it's not worth, losing sleep over on a consistent basis or causing friction in the household.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any other big portfolio moves this year? You paid off 2 properties, had a very successful slow burn, got rid of a dog and just, the dog of the portfolio. Any other big portfolio moves?
That's a really good question. I'm starting to feel at the point now where I'm very happy with what we have. We had some turnover, so we got, all those realigned. We were able to raise rent on those turnovers. As I've mentioned before, we keep tenanted properties at the same or very close to rate. So it was, kind of nice to be able to do a pretty big bump in between tenants on a few of those. So I feel like we've gotten into a really good groove. I still would like to get to number 10. Just, it's just a nice number to have. So we might be, looking to buy number 10. It would probably just, go with what you know. We're really good at single family rentals. It'll probably just be a solid single family.
At this point, probably like a turnkey single family?
Yes. I feel like we deserve a turnkey at this point.
All right. So last section of this chapter, your real estate, your goals as a real estate professional.
Yeah.
And I mean, Q1 of last year, I think you left your W-2, new home, new family, all, big life changes.
Yeah.
And you'd been an agent for a while, but want to make that your full-time career.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that transition, because, we have a lot of listeners going through or thinking about similar transitions, and also just what the goals are and how reality is shaking out.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, it was absolutely the best move I could have done, but it was also the scariest move. Like, new house, new baby, that's a lot of responsibility to take on in 1 year. Leaving a job that I had for 10 years that, I had a pretty good career at, but ultimately this was what I was most passionate about. I don't think I would have been able to do it had I not had the investment properties backing me. And then also my husband has a stable job too. So that is kind of what propelled me to be like, okay, let's take the leap. So, we were just kind of chatting. It was a little slow going last year, which was totally fine. I think that's a reasonable expectation to have when you're leaving a career and starting to be self-employed. Like, you should not
sweat equity.
You should not expect an income, so anything that you do make, I think, is a cherry on top. I was kind of thinking a year, but I think the team sped that up a little bit. So come January, we were full force and growing the team down here.
I mean, exactly that. It just wasn't like, hey, you were able to do a bunch of deals, but also now we brought on Leah, who's just been an amazing part of the team.
Absolutely.
Or addition to the team, and she's out there cranking, and you're building something just really cool down south.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I don't want to inflate your ego too much, but we appreciate everything that you've created and the opportunity for us to do that.
Well, thank you. It's a fun ride. We'll keep going on there. So one thing I don't see on this is I'm looking in the book here, Jenny. Where is the Pueblo expansion on here? I'm squinting on here.
Is it not on there?
Yeah, I don't see it on there. So
yeah. So I think that'll be a 2022 goal.
I think it's a 2021 happening right now.
It is, but we gotta take the training wheels off down there and go full force next year.
But really, from that goals was just to take a step back, like successful transition you did, and anyone out there going from a W-2 to being self-employed, make sure you understand the consequences it has on your lending opportunities out there. Because as a W-2 person, you're very attractive. As a new self-employed person, you're not so attractive.
Yep.
Just from a lending standpoint. So make sure you understand that. Go to Google, listen to past podcasts, talk to your lender, but that is a very important thing to understand. And then just, we end up doing a lot of deals down there, growing a team, and really just like a long-term aspect of building a really great, service for clients to use as well. So I've been thrilled at this, expansion we've done, and excited to see how, as Pueblo builds out, not a matter of if, but when.
Yep.
Especially with Leah's connections and backgrounds down there. As Pueblo builds out, it's just going to be great success. And I'm very excited to see what goals you guys write in the next year's chapter of the book.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to have a running total for the next decade or so. I think that's a really cool idea.
So as we talk about this, wrap this podcast, Jenny, just give your plug as to why someone should write a chapter in next year's book.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I remember writing this chapter. It was fun being like, oh man, it would be really cool if we could pay off a property. And then it's like, oh man, we did 2 properties this year. It's just really fun to be able to kind of dream big, in the beginning of the year, and then kind of see where you land come the end of the year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe even thinking bigger for next year.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So listeners out there, the book we publish every single year. It's an open invitation to people out there in Colorado. The connection is somewhat invest in Colorado. You invest here, you live here. Just that's the connection on here. So reach out to us. We can send you a link to all the writing guidelines on there. They're pretty basic, but please start thinking about writing a chapter, submit it to us. They'll be due sometime in January. We'll start working on the next year's edition. But this is just an amazing way to hold yourself accountable and also just be able to network and learn what other people are doing around town as well. So please, please, please provide. And if you're I'm using air quotes here, a brand new investor with nothing to contribute, I call BS. Because you absolutely have something to contribute, and also you can write down your own goals and hold yourself accountable. We've all started at the starting line at mile 0.0, That's where we all start at.
Yep.
So start there and go there. You might be going to mile 1, Jenny's in mile 10, whatever it is, but like we're all on that race. So do not be shy about what your perceived value add is. Just write your damn chapter and achieve your goals. Would be the way I would end it.
Yep.
So Jenny, this is awesome. I am just stoked about talking about this. I'm excited to see what 2022 and 2023 and going out to 2030, see how that holds.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah.
So thank you for all this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, listeners out there, please contribute to the chapter. So on the website, reach out to us. We'll hook you with the details. And of course, if you have questions on what to do with a property, your portfolio, buy your next rental, reach out to us. We're happy to help you out. That's what we do. So Jenny, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chris.